Adam Fox is one of 3 finalists for the Norris Trophy. Can, should, and will the New York Ranger defenseman win the trophy for the second time in the last 3 years? We discussed that in today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers. Also going to be looking ahead to the start of the Hartford Wolf Pack taking on the Hershey Bears in a best-of-5 division finals, basically the equivalent of the second round if you're looking at the Stanley Cup playoffs. All that and much more on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers. Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 825 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. We are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So, obviously, we got a lot to talk about today, and figure we'll just go ahead, dive right into it, talk about Adam Fox and his bid to win his second Norris Trophy overall, and also what would be his second in 3 years if he indeed does capture the trophy here. And look, I know some Ranger fans after the showing in the playoffs this year, they're a little bit down on Adam Fox. I thought in particular he had a really rough Game 7. Didn't really think he was that bad other than that. I mean, a couple of hiccups here and there. And obviously there were some games where the Rangers as a whole just didn't play well, and Adam Fox could be included in that. But yeah, Game 7 was really rough. Him and Kreider basically just got outworked by Palat on the first goal of the game by the Devils, and it basically just snowballed from there, and Devils, of course, beat the Rangers 4-0 in Game 7. This is also a good time to point out the fact, though, that the playoffs have absolutely nothing to do when it comes to these regular season awards, and that's what the Norris Trophy is. It's a regular season award. Anything that happens in the Stanley Cup playoffs is completely irrelevant, with regards to, awards like the Vezina, the Norris, the Hart, whatever it might be. So we can take all that happened in the playoffs off the table as far as Adam Fox is concerned, and as far as his bid to win this award is concerned. I know that obviously Fox struggled in the playoffs, and while we're on the subject here, we'll get back to the regular season numbers that Fox put up, and we'll compare and contrast him to the other 2 finalists here. But I did want to just kind of mention something because, in the aftermath of, the Rangers' playoff loss to the Devils, a lot of fans are obviously very emotional, very upset, very angry that, the Rangers played the way that they did, that they gave away the 2-0 lead, and that they got eliminated in the first round during a season where a lot of fans thought that this team might contend for a Stanley Cup championship. Obviously, they fell well short of that, but I did see this narrative, it wasn't a ton of people, but it was enough that I wanted to acknowledge it on social media where, people are claiming that Adam Fox is not a big game defenseman and he chokes in the playoffs and this, that, and the other thing. I want to just kind of debunk that real quick. 30 career playoff games for Adam Fox so far with the Rangers. He has scored 5 goals and has 26 assists, so more than a point per game in the playoffs for a defenseman in Adam Fox. He's also a +2 in that time. And to just kind of highlight some of his big moments in the postseason. He had last year against the Penguins. He had at least 1 point in all 7 games of that 7-game series against Pittsburgh, 3 goals and 7 assists in those 7 games. That also included a goal in Game 5 that essentially brought the Rangers back from the dead. They were down 2-0, down 3-1 in the series, and that goal that Fox scored cut the Pittsburgh lead to 2-1 in that game, and the Rangers were on their way to rallying at that point. Game 6, when the Rangers were facing elimination against the Penguins, all Adam Fox did was pick up a grand total of 4 assists in that game. 4 assists with his team facing elimination on the road. And then in Game 7, same series. It's all one series, by the way. All the same series against the Penguins. In the overtime period, obviously we know Artemi Panarin scored the game winner in that Game 7 overtime, and Adam Fox is the one who got the primary assist on that play. You also look at the series against the Canes last year. Between Games 3 and 7 against Carolina, quiet first couple of games, but the Rangers were quiet in those 2 games as well. Between Games 3 and 7 against the Canes, 2 goals and 6 assists for Adam Fox. 4 points in Games 6 and 7 combined when the Rangers were facing elimination. So I'm picking up on a pattern here. Adam Fox is a big game defenseman and seems to be at his best when the Rangers are facing elimination. Obviously, Game 7 against the Devils, notwithstanding this year, because he did have a rough night. But for the most part, this is somebody that has been very, very consistent and very, very good when the lights are at their brightest, when the Rangers in particular are facing elimination. Even this year in the series against the Devils, obviously lackluster performance overall for the Rangers. Very disappointing end of the season, but Adam Fox with 8 assists in the 7 games against the Devils. And I know people are upset about what happened in the playoffs, and believe me, I'm right there with you. But let's not try to rewrite history here and act like Adam Fox has never done anything big for the Rangers in a big game, because it just simply is not true. As far as this season is concerned, for Adam Fox being one of the 3 finalists for the Norris, I certainly think it's a well-deserved nomination. There were a lot of really good defensemen in this league this year, and a lot of guys that you could make a case for as far as being one of the finalists. But it's going to be the 3 finalists: Fox, Erik Karlsson, and Cale Makar. And to just kind of go over what Fox did in the regular season this year, he played all 82 games, which is an impressive feat in and of itself. This is obviously very physically, very mentally demanding sport. And so anytime that anybody's out there for all 82, I think you got to give them props for that. Had a career high 12 goals. He also had 60 assists, which was just 3 fewer than he had last year. 72 points, which is 2 fewer than he had last year. Career best plus 28. Career high shooting percentage at 7.5%. His average ice time was 24 minutes and 23 seconds. Second highest of his career. Also had 125 block shots, 25 hits, and 88 takeaways against only 74 giveaways. Just another stellar year for Adam Fox, one of the absolute best in the league. Obviously, I know right now, too, with the cap crunch and everything for the Rangers, people are kind of fixing in on guys that are making a lot of money, and, can we trade this guy and can we trade that guy? And I saw, again, this is just a very small collection of Ranger fans, but I saw somebody float the idea of, well, of all the high-paid players and all the pillars of this team, Adam Fox is the only one that doesn't have a no-move clause of any kind, and he's making $9.5 million a year. No, we're not going down that road. Adam Fox is not getting traded. You would never in a million years get fair compensation for Adam Fox, even if you did want to trade him. And honestly, I can't even blame teams for not wanting to give up what it would take to get Adam Fox, because, it would obviously be a lot. Adam Fox is an elite defenseman, elite two-way defenseman. Players like Adam Fox do not grow on trees, and when you have one on your team, you do your best to lock him up. And I thought it was a brilliant move to get him signed long-term, which is what the Rangers did an offseason ago here. And he's going to be a Ranger for a long time, I would imagine. I can't see any, situation, any scenario where he ends up playing on a different team. And again, it was a very small contingent of Ranger fans that were tossing that idea around on social media. I can always appreciate creative ideas, but no, Adam Fox needs to stay with the New York Rangers. I think it's certainly money well spent. Again, just do it all defenseman, great passer, moves the puck, seems to see the ice very well, very high hockey IQ, very good skater. I've talked about in the past, I think he's about as good as anybody at defending odd man rushes. And another point that I've made in the past, if you're an NHL general manager and you could just push a button and any defenseman in the league is on your team, I think a lot of guys are going to be going with Adam Fox, and there's some other good ones for sure. But when you consider his all-around game as well as his, age, I believe right now, what is he, 25? Yeah, still only 25 is Adam Fox. So, I think he would be very high up there if you got an honest answer out of, the 32 NHL general managers that are currently employed by teams right now. But yeah, obviously, Fox has racked up a good amount of accolades, but in just a second, I do want to look at his fellow nominees. That would be Erik Karlsson and Cale Makar, and offer a prediction for who I think is ultimately going to win the Norris this season. We will do that in just a second. But first, gotta let everybody know, today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. Buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun that you're about to have. Gametime is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're all set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, we just want to go ahead. Thank everybody, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. And for the everydayers, very much looking forward to tomorrow's episode as well. Hartford Wolf Pack going to be in action. Game 1 against the Hershey Bears, best of 5 series. And we're going to break down whatever happens there. I was able to order AHL TV and plan on watching that game later tonight. So very much looking forward to that and seeing how far the Wolf Pack can take this Cinderella run, because they're obviously off to a heck of a start so far in the playoffs. But as for right now, let's go ahead. I think it's only fair if we kind of at least briefly look at the other two, finalists for the Norris Trophy and just kind of compare and contrast here. Erik Karlsson, and a little bit of a spoiler here, he's probably going to win the award, and it's probably the right choice. To just kind of go through his stats really quick here, 82 games for Karlsson, same as Adam Fox. They both, played the entire season. 25 goals for Karlsson, 76 assists. So a total of 101 points in 82 games for Erik Karlsson. Now, despite getting 101 points, he was a minus 26, but I feel like that's mainly the case of him just playing on a really, really bad Sharks hockey team, which is, let's just be fair here. That's what they are right now. And it kind of leads me into something else that I want to debate here, because there's been some chatter in recent seasons, and I think rightfully so, where, certain fans kind of lament the idea that the Norris Trophy seems to always just go to the defenseman with the most points, or, those are the 3 finalists, the 3 defensemen with the most points. And that's not the case this year. Adam Fox and Cale Makar were like 6 and 7, 7 and 8 as far as most points are concerned, something like that. But yeah, I think it's certainly worthy of a discussion where, the Norris shouldn't just go to the defenseman that has the most points. We do have the Selke Award, which goes to best defensive forward. So I'm wondering if maybe there's a way to, do a kind of award that, we have the best defensive forward, so maybe you create an award for the best offensive defenseman and you give that out, and then the Norris Trophy just goes to the best all-around defenseman. And there are seasons where that might end up being the same person, but I don't think it's a bad idea to do that, and you can just kind of get the Norris back to what it's supposed to be, best all-around defenseman. However, for this season, with the fact that Erik Karlsson got 101 points, I think he kind of has to be the guy. His 101 points were 25 more than Quinn Hughes and Josh Morrissey, who each had 76 points on the season. When you break 100 points as a defenseman and you have a 25-point lead on the next closest guy to you, I think the Norris is probably yours, unless you are just a unbelievable defensive liability and it's just a nightmare every time you're on the ice and you're expecting the other team to get a goal. And unless it's that extreme, you're probably the Norris winner. And I think, given the season that Erik Karlsson just had, and doing it on a bad team, mind you, a team that, where did they finish? Were they last in their They were second to last in their division. I had to check my little standings board over there, but they finished in front of the Ducks, but they were obviously not a good team. And I just think that having a season like that where you produce that many points as a defenseman and you do so in spite of the fact that you're playing on a team that just isn't very good, I think that certainly that award probably belongs to you, excuse me. Cale Makar, just kind of look at him. He only played 60 games, but he did have 17 goals, 49 assists, so 66 points in 60 games, and he was a plus 16. You can't really go wrong with any of these 3 nominees, Adam Fox included, but like I said, I think Karlsson probably should be the winner and probably will be the winner this season. Again, there's other defensemen even beyond that. I know a lot of people were, not a lot of people, but certainly there were some people looking at Morrissey and thinking that he should be up for the Norris this season. There's some unbelievable defensemen in this league, but I do think that we're probably looking at a situation where, based on the fact that he had 101 points as a D-man, Erik Karlsson is probably going to be the guy. But I would like to see that idea put into effect maybe in the future here, where you give out an award. Like I said, we got the Selke for best defensive forward. Let's do something else for best offensive defenseman, kind of the opposite of the Selke. And I think you can give that out to probably the guy that gets the most points. And then once again, the Norris can represent what it's made to represent, and that's the defenseman with the best all-around game for the season. Anyway, we're going to keep everything rolling in just a second here. I want to shift our attention to the Hartford Wolf Pack. I'm really looking forward to this. They kind of... we talk about the Wolf Pack every now and then on here, but obviously this is Locked On Rangers, and that's where the primary focus is going to be. Once the Rangers got eliminated from the playoffs, though, and, the Wolf Pack advanced, I did want to eventually shift our attention there, but then, of course, Gerard Gallant gets fired, and we got to talk about that. And believe me, we're going to keep talking about Gallant going forward, or not really Gallant, but rather the Rangers head coaching vacancy, and go through a couple of the other nominees. If you missed yesterday's episode, go back and check that out. We took a look at Peter Laviolette, who I think might be the odds-on favorite to be the next Ranger coach, and we also looked at the completely dark horse out of the box candidate, and I think that would be Mark Messier. So we talked about both of them in great detail. We're going to talk about guys like Kris Knoblauch in the future, maybe Claude Julien. We'll look around the league and see what the options are for this team. But yeah, if you want my thoughts on Laviolette and Messier, you can find that in the most recent episode. But like I said, in a second, we're going to shift our attention to the Hartford Wolf Pack as they continue their march, hopefully to the Calder Cup, but we will see. And obviously, they're starting their next playoff series tonight against the Hershey Bears. We will get to that in just a second. All right, Hartford Wolf Pack. So they had to get to where they are now, and again, they are in what I guess could be considered the third round of the AHL playoffs. A couple of teams get byes. A couple of teams have to play a best of three in the first round. The Wolfpack had to do that. They won that series 2-0. They then went on to what can be considered the second round or the round of 16, whatever you want to call it. Best of 5. They got up 2-0, lost game 3, won game 4 at home to once again advance. And now they play the Hershey Bears in the round of 8, the third round. It's the equivalent of what the second round would be of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So basically right where we are in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But bottom line is, they've obviously played very well here. They are let's see, that would be 5-1 in the playoffs. And, there's a lot going on here because, yes, it's cool to see the Wolfpack make a deep run in the playoffs in and of itself. I mean, that's just fun. And obviously the Rangers, they went out, so we can turn some attention to the Hartford Wolfpack, shine a spotlight on them a little bit. But there's some interesting developments as well. Kris Knoblauch, he's the coach of the Hartford Wolfpack, and he is also somebody who could be in the running to be the next head coach of the New York Rangers. By all accounts, him and Chris Drury are pretty tight. Drury's a big fan of his. And Knoblauch, he's been with the Wolfpack for a while. He was the interim coach for the Rangers. I forget the exact phrase used for it. I don't know if interim was right, but basically, a couple of years ago, David Quinn and the entire Ranger coaching staff got COVID, couldn't be around the team for obvious reasons, and so they had to throw together, a makeshift coaching staff, basically. So Knoblauch was coaching the Rangers. Chris Drury was actually on the bench, too, as an assistant coach. But listen, the farther that the Wolfpack go in the playoffs here, if they end up winning a championship, I gotta believe that can only bode well for Knoblauch and his chances of eventually coaching the Rangers. He's had a solid season with the Wolfpack this year. They weren't like one of the top teams in the AHL at all in the regular season, but if they make a playoff run here, that's going to look very good for him. And I'm sure the Rangers will be impressed by that, and it can only strengthen his case to be the next head coach of the New York Rangers. And we'll get to Knoblauch in greater detail in a future episode, but I just wanted to throw that out there for the time being. Speaking of people, improving their stock within the Ranger organization, looking at this playoff run for the Pack so far, I don't think anybody has done that to the extent that Dylan Garand has. Dylan Garand, the goalie for the Wolfpack, he was a 4th-round pick by the Rangers back in 2020. And, he's had some mixed results since being drafted by the Rangers. Even this year with the Wolfpack, not great stats. He played 32 games, a goals against average of 3.01, a save percentage of .894, and a record of 13, 14, and 3 to go along with 3 shutouts in the regular season. But in the playoffs this year, he's taken his game to a whole new level. He's played all 6 of Hartford's games, and just like the team, he has a record of 5-1 in the playoffs. He's got a goals against average of 1.17 in these 6 playoff games and a .954 save percentage. A little bit of a small sample, but obviously this looks good. This is somebody who scuffled a little bit at times in the regular season and is seemingly at his best here in the playoffs when the lights are their brightest that they're going to get in the AHL. And it also kind of begs the question, could we see Dylan Garand with the Rangers next season? I would imagine they'd probably want to go with a backup to start the season, whether you bring back Yaroslav Halak. Louis Domingue is still under contract. Halak, by the way, is a UFA, and he is getting older, but he had a good season, so you could make a case for, having Halak stick around. Domingue is still under contract for another season, although, he scuffled a little bit in the AHL this season. Do they look for another veteran backup to back up Igor Shesterkin, or do they give Dylan Garand a chance? He is only 20 years old. Again, I get the feeling that they would want him to get a little bit more seasoning in the AHL, but I wouldn't rule it out either. It's at least possible, and we'll see how the Rangers look to play it next season. But again, just like with Knoblauch being maybe the next Ranger coach, Dylan Garand being the next Ranger goalie, or backup goalie at least, he's certainly improving his chances by what he's doing so far in the playoffs here. As far as other, top performers for the Rangers here in the Wolfpack playoff run, you've got Tim Gettinger. It feels like every year he ends up with the Rangers just for a quick cup of coffee and gets sent back down. I don't believe he played any games with the Rangers this season. I don't have that in front of me right now, but so far in the playoffs here, in the 6 games, Gettinger has 2 goals and 5 assists. He's also a +7. You got Tanner Fritz, a goal and 6 assists. He's a +6. 28-year-old left winger Anton Blyde. He was traded in March of this year from the Rangers, or to the Rangers from the Avalanche in exchange for Gustav Riedel. He's played 84 career NHL games and is a UFA after this season, but he's had a strong playoff run for the Wolfpack as well. Lauri Pahuniemi, and this one's kind of interesting because a report surfaced not that long ago that he is going to be leaving the Ranger organization after the Calder Cup playoffs conclude here and will be joining the SHL. Pahuniemi is 23, had 19 goals and 19 assists in 58 regular season games with the Hartford Wolf Pack this season. In the playoffs so far, 3 goals, 2 assists in 6 games. And just for some context, he was taken in the 5th round by the Rangers in 2018, was going to be an RFA with arbitration rights this summer, but it looks like he will instead head back to the SHL when the season ends, which is unfortunate. He's somebody that's always kind of intrigued me a little bit, but it sounds like I said, if the report is to be believed, he will be leaving the Ranger organization once this Hartford Wolfpack run concludes, whenever that might be. Defenseman Ty Emberson, he's got 2 goals and 3 assists in 6 games, so nice run for Emberson there. Zach Jones, obviously that's a familiar name for Ranger fans. He's got 2 goals and 3 assists in the 5 games. Jones had a pretty nice year for the Wolfpack, 54 games, 8 goals, 23 assists, so 31 points. He was also a +16, and the Rangers have to be hoping that this seasoning that Jones got in the AHL this year will eventually translate to NHL success. Jones obviously made the Rangers out of training camp last season, was splitting some time with Libor Hayek. Eventually, the two of them were both kind of pushed out of the picture. Ben Harper took over. Nico Mikkola was traded for. So Jones was a little bit the forgotten man, but I know that Ranger fans certainly have not forgotten about him altogether, and you got to figure he'll at least be in the running to claim an opening night roster spot for this upcoming season. I thought for sure, when the Rangers were striking those deals for Tarasenko and for Kane, I had a feeling that Zach Jones was probably going to be involved in one of the trades, would be included. Decent prospect for the Rangers, former 3rd-round pick, and they found a way, did Chris Drury and the Rangers, to not have to include Jones in either of those trades. So he's still here, and like I said, I think he'll get a shot at it next season. Mikola's probably going to walk in free agency, you would have to think. So as far as the 6th defenseman spot is concerned, that basically leaves you with either Harper or Jones or, maybe Libor Hayek. He has 9 lives. We all know that. Maybe he works his way back in there. We'll see how the whole thing shakes out. Maybe there's a dark horse that we're not even thinking of. But yeah, I think Jones will certainly be able to throw his name in the hat as far as the 6th defenseman job going into next season. Will Cooley, he had a big regular season with the Hartford Wolf Pack, 25 goals and 20 assists in 69 games, was also a +10. So far, though, just 1 assist in the 6 playoff games. So maybe Will Cooley can get it going a little bit in this series. And he's another guy that going into next season, if I had to predict, I don't think he would make the Rangers opening night roster, but once again, I would not rule anything out. It's going to depend on how the dominoes fall here. Do certain Ranger forwards get traded? Do certain guys move on in free agency? How many openings are there going to be in the 12 spots, the 12 forward spots that the Rangers have going into opening night next season? I think that could have a lot to do with whether we see Cooley at the start of next season or not. You've also got Adam Sakura. He was the Rangers' 2nd-round pick from this last year, and he played in 4 games in the playoffs so far with the Wolfpack, has 1 assist. Sakura also played in 2 games with the Pack in the regular season, no points in those 2 games, but cool to see him getting a shot with the Wolfpack now. I should also mention Brennan Othmann, because he's not with the Wolfpack right now, but he still could end up there before the playoff run begins. His team in the OHL, the Peterborough Petes, have advanced to the OHL finals, which I believe they also start tonight, Thursday night. More on that in just a second. But Othmann this year, 56 total games between the Flint Firebirds and the Peterborough Petes. And in those 56 games, had 29 goals, 38 assists. So 67 points in 56 games. Last year, he had 97 points in 66 games with the Firebirds. So it almost sounds like kind of a small amount this year, but still a phenomenal season for Othmann. Again, 67 points in 56 games. I would be stunned if we don't see Brennan Othmann with the Rangers at some point next season. You never really know for sure, but it's getting to the point where there's not really a whole lot left for him to do in the OHL. I mean, he's just skating circles around people. It's like playing a video game and setting the difficulty to rookie. That's what Othmann's pretty much doing right now, regardless of whether it's with the Firebirds or the Petes. He's just tearing up the OHL. I mentioned a second ago, though, that his team, once again, the Petes, heading to the OHL Finals, otherwise known as the J. Ross Robertson Cup Finals. The Petes were down 3-2 against the North Bay Battalion in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they won Game 6 in overtime to stay alive. Othmann in that game had 2 assists, including the only assist on the overtime winner. So Othmann with a big play to keep the Petes alive. And then in Game 7, Othmann scored what was his 7th goal of the playoffs to give the Petes a 2-1 lead in the second period. North Bay ended up tying it at 2, but the Petes went on to win Game 7 by a final score of 3-2 and advance to the finals. And now the Petes will take on the London Knights beginning once again here on Thursday night. It will be a best of 7. And again, the reason that this is so important is that Othmann can join the Hartford Wolf Pack whenever his OHL season concludes. So on one hand, the selfish part of me kind of wishes that they had lost in the previous round, because then he could be on the Wolfpack right now and get a taste of some AHL hockey and help the Wolfpack advance, presumably. But obviously that didn't happen, and Othmann gets to play in the finals, and I'm sure he's enjoying that opportunity. So all the best there, and hopefully he ends up winning a championship. Hopefully they just sweep their opponents, and then he can join the Wolfpack a little bit sooner. But bottom line, if the Wolfpack gets through this round, then Othmann's season in the OHL will end before the Wolfpack's next series does, pretty much no matter how the whole thing shakes out with either of those teams. So yeah, bottom line, if the Wolfpack get through this round, very, very likely that we're going to see Brennan Othmann playing for them, and that's going to be a lot of fun as well. That's pretty much it, though. They're ready to play the Hershey Bears. The Bears do have home ice advantage. They'll be home for games 1 and 2 and 5 if necessary. Pack will be home for game 3 and game 4 if necessary. But game 1 is tonight. Very much looking forward to watching that. And for anybody else that might be thinking about checking it out, I basically just ordered AHL TV. You can do that just by going to their website, and it's only $29.99, and you can watch any of the remaining playoff games for the AHL. And I'm going to be locked into the Hartford Wolf Pack games, and very much looking forward to talking about whatever happens with the Pack on tomorrow's episode, Friday's episode of Locked On New York Rangers, and we'll see what else we get into as well. But that will do it for today, guys. Once again, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com, and definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that's @LO_NY_Rangers, and definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time.